So Microsoft is going to be raising the prices of consoles, games, and Game Pass after the holidays? Well, that's what Phil Spencer said today, and we're going to talk all about that today and what that means for you as a gamer. Hey everybody, I'm LittleBobby here with 5-9 Direct, and today we're going to be talking about the price increases coming to all Xbox gaming games, consoles, and services after the holiday season. But before we do that, make sure that if you're brand new here and you're enjoying this content, you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date on all the news, reviews, and more that we create here on 5-9 Direct. And if you don't like this video, make sure to leave a dislike and let us know in the comments why and how we can do better in the future to create better content for everyone. But getting into this article from Ian Scher over at cnet.com, it looks like Phil Spencer announced in an Xbox keynote today that Xbox is going to be raising prices on all consoles, games, and services after the holiday 2020 season, citing the cost of increases in the industry rising. However, don't fret, because during this holiday season, according to the article, at the Wall Street Journal's WSJ Tech Live conference in Laguna Beach, California, Spencer noted that his company's Xbox Series S will continue to cost $300 through the holiday shopping season, and its Xbox Series X will remain at $500. The company's games made in-house will also continue to cost as much as $60 rather than $70 other game makers have been charging. And its Xbox Game Pass subscription service will still cost up to $15 a month, and that I believe is for the console Game Pass Ultimate. The article continues, going into this holiday season, we thought it was really important that we maintain the prices that we have, Spencer said. Consumers right now are more uncertain than they have been in a long time, and I want our medium of video games to be something that they find attractive. Alright, so we see now that Xbox is planning on making adjustments to prices to reflect the current global economic situation, which is something we heard from Sony over the summer. We made a video on that about the PS5 and how they're raising prices on it. And we talked about how Sony talking about how that was profitable meant that they should kind of eat a little bit of that profit and just keep the consoles the same price worldwide. Now, it has been something that has been really contentious with Sony raising those console prices, and you see that in a lot of people talking about Xbox versus PlayStation Online. PlayStation raised their game prices, PlayStation raised their console prices, everything's more expensive. But here we see now that the other industry leader in like quote-unquote next-gen console stuff is doing the same thing. And why is that? Because believe it or not, people, things are getting more expensive, and having to deal with that is just a shame for everybody. And having to deal with that with our games, it sucks, but it's something that we're going to have to deal with. I said this just a few days ago when we talked about the Xbox Series S and the reports that developers have been saying that the Series S is a pain to develop for. And I got a lot of blowback in the comments, and that's fine. I don't mind that. I don't mind having discussions with you guys about this, but so many people were like, Xbox doesn't need to raise the prices of their games. Well, Xbox could hold out doing it longer because they're worth about 20 times more than Sony is worth. Sony has to make up that difference to stay alive, where Xbox can eat it through the holidays, but now we're seeing that even Microsoft, because they're losing money, is having to raise the prices of these consoles as well. Not only that, but announcing that they're going to be raising prices probably to that $70 price point on their games is something that a lot of Xbox fans used to lord over PlayStation fans, which is something crazy. Now, we have talked at great lengths about Xbox on this channel and how a lot of their practices we do not like. However, we've also been very open to criticize Sony about their practices that we don't like, because both companies are engaging in some shady stuff. But one thing I never really expected was to see Microsoft openly saying we're going to be increasing the price of Game Pass. Game Pass has been absolutely carrying this generation of Microsoft consoles. People are buying the Series S because you can buy a Series S for $300 and you can get Game Pass for $15 a month and play tons of games. And sure, there might not be any, huge AAA projects out from Microsoft yet, but next year they're going to be looking to put out a bunch from my understanding. But it's looking like they're saying, hey, if you want to play these titles that we're actually releasing next year, you gotta pay. And this comes out after Microsoft just said that Game Pass actually is profitable, which is something that's good to hear with all the server costs, dev costs, right? Back end, working on UI, things like that, plus the contracts with all the companies. It's rumored that they've spent probably a couple $1 billion, but if they're earning $3 billion a year, maybe they're making, 200 to 500 million a year on Game Pass after all is said and done. And that could be great because it could keep Game Pass going. However, you have to ask, with them increasing Game Pass prices, how many people are going to get priced out by this? The Series S was a big deal because you could get it for $300, like I said earlier. And if now the price proposition is going, hey, we don't have guaranteed solid IPs and games coming from Microsoft because they've had trouble delivering in the past few years, and maybe the Series S sees a 10 to 15% price increase, we're looking at $330 to $350. At that point, I'm personally going for a Nintendo Switch because Nintendo has some of the best IPs on the planet. Sure, they give a lemon every once in a while, but overall, Nintendo's catalog is extremely solid on almost every front. And yeah, they don't put their games on discount too much, and even when they do, they're not on that great of a discount. But man, if I can get Mario Kart 8, Super Smash Bros., Breath of the Wild, and Mario Odyssey, and I spend those, I could spend years playing just those 4 games. And that's not to mention things like Xenoblade Chronicles, Fire Emblem, those games that are really, really heavily invested in the Nintendo infrastructure. Right now, I'm seeing great things about Bayonetta 3 coming out, and that's another Switch game that's exclusive to the Switch hardware. But back to the topic of Game Pass being profitable, I'm going to throw out the exact same thing I threw out at Sony. If it's profitable, Microsoft, you're one of the richest companies in the world, and you should be subsidizing Game Pass. You're talking about how gaming is all for the gamers, but you're not going to subsidize the thing that is keeping people interested in your ecosystem in the first place? Now, I get that they have said they are losing money on the consoles, and they are likely losing money on the game development, especially with Game Pass being a thing. It's probably hampering game sales. That's something that has been almost confirmed for AAA titles, because someone might buy an indie that they played on Game Pass for 15 or 20 bucks, but it's a harder sell when they play something on Game Pass and it's $60. They go, why don't I just keep it on Game Pass? I guarantee you that Microsoft's first-party sales are really, really bad. I would actually love to see how many sales of Halo Infinite happen. I know that Forza Horizon reported really, really strong sales, and I think that was because it was literally the first Xbox game of this new generation. Almost every first game of a new generation, like big game, is going to sell pretty well because people are just going to buy it to support it and to have something physical to go with their new console. But I mentioned just a few videos ago how we were going to see an increase in game prices, and every single person who was obviously an Xbox fan wanted to shut me down and say, no, that's just Sony being greedy. It's just Sony being greedy. I would not be surprised if Nintendo does release a quote-unquote Switch 2, Switch Pro, what have you. We're going to see an increase in prices there as well, because that's just how the world has been going. Games have been the same price since the 90s, you guys. I remember when I was like 12 years old seeing Mario 64 going for $60, and that was 25 years ago. So understand that game prices needed to come up. They were always going to come up. I'm shocked that it didn't happen earlier. However, I want to put out here that Xbox has been all about saying we support the gamers. We're not doing price increases. And then finally, Phil Spencer came out today and said, we're not doing price increases until after holiday 2022, at which point every single thing, including our service, is going to go up. Xbox raising prices is something that I understand. However, after their constant trying to put down Sony, as well as Xbox fans constantly trying to put down Sony for raising prices when Sony's worth about 5% of what Microsoft is, I think it's so hypocritical that Xbox would use all of that effort to put Sony down on that front, only to a few months later say, hey, we're going to be raising prices too. There were articles coming out right after PlayStation announced their price increases where Phil Spencer said, we do not have any plans in the foreseeable future to increase prices of our Xbox products for anyone. And now we're seeing the announcement less than 6 months later that they're going to be following suit. If you want to talk about greed inside of the video games industry, fine, that's understandable. But understand that prices have increased. You have to pay top tier voice talent, because even though we learned through the Helena Taylor stuff recently that voice actors don't make all that much, we have seen that there are some top tier like actors getting into gaming, and I guarantee you that those actors are being paid in the minimum high 6 figures for their roles in games. There is no way that Keanu Reeves played Johnny Silverhand for $15,000. Not to mention that a lot of developers who do just gameplay design will make the high 5 figures every year, and creative directors or game directors will probably make $250,000 to $300,000 a year. Paying all those people is not cheap. And I understand when a company says that they need to raise prices to keep up with the demand of the cost of the industry. However, Xbox trying to utilize that against PlayStation in like a console war thing earlier this year, only to turn around 6 months later and say themselves that they're going to be raising prices within the next few months, is just insanely hypocritical. But What do you think of Xbox raising the prices of all its consoles, games, and services coming up in 2023? Do you think it's something that's going to help Microsoft stay alive? Do they need help staying alive? Or is that $70 billion Activision thing something that they could have maybe foregone to lower costs overall? Let us know down in the comments below. Again, I'm LittleBobby here with 5-9 Gaming Direct. Make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, a dislike if you didn't, and let us know in the comments down below what we could improve to make these videos better for you in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope we see you soon.